Welcome back, gang. This is Deltia, and I wanted to share some general tips to help you complete Vateshran hollows on veteran mode. I've completed multiple trifecta runs on my Gladiator Magic Templar build that's no death, no sigils, under 45 minutes in one run, and found some simple tips and tricks that can help you get your first clear or the Spirit Slayer title. For inexperienced players, I would start completing the dungeon on normal first, just like I did. You'll be able to slow down and experience some of the mechanics and also have fun farting around and looking at all the new cool stuff in the arena. Once you've completed it on normal one or more times, try veteran. If you get stuck, take a break, look up a guide, a complete walkthrough, and go back to the drawing board. Once you've completed on veteran, then go for speed, no sigil, no death, individually over time. Once you've completed all of those and are very familiar with the arena, then go for a full complete trifecta run to get that 6th Spirit Slayer title. A simple and obvious tip, but can radically change how easy the bosses were, is stacking mobs on top of the boss. Melee, it's quite obvious, but range is a bit different. What you'll need to do is pull back about 10 to 12 meters, forcing the range mobs to come to you. So if you're on top of the boss, you want to peel back a ways, and then what will happen is those range folks will start stacking on top of the boss. This seems quite obvious, but you want to stack those adds on top of the boss. You're doing damage both to the boss and to the ad simultaneously. Don't forget, the radius on abilities like Elemental Blockade or Arrow Barrage is massive, so it can hit the boss, mobs, simultaneously, making this go much faster. Keeping your head on a swivel is important, both for grabbing the power-ups, but also during boss fights to ensure death-dealing adds are taken down quickly, or mechanics. An example of this is the last boss in the blue portal. Sentinels spawn at random locations, the big eyeball dude, and you'll need to be behind them in order to channel the boss's attack, hitting them, killing them quickly. So what I do is I lay down my channel focus and I kite, either back and forth or I just go in a circular motion. So I cast my shield, quickly scan, kind of kite around, because I want to make sure I'm encountering those and getting behind them very fast. Another example of this is the 2H boss, the final one, in the red portal. There'll be a mechanic where it will be an orb you experienced earlier that you have to heavy attack fully while you're on top of it to get an important buff allowing you to survive with lava. So if you're not looking around, kiting, going in a circular motion, or panning your camera, you're going to miss out on this, and when the boss stomps his 2H into the ground, it's going to be bad news. So constantly either kite around or shield up, pan your camera, and look at what's going on around you. Prioritizing ultimates is a must for making these clears very easy. What I suggest is doing a combination of things depending on how the boss fights go for you. Ultimates at the start of the round are good to get a nice burn. During tough spawns can save your life, and also during a final burn to finish off the boss. So an example of this is the final boss in the red portals with the giant fire colossus. I found it much easier to drop my ultimate at the start of the round, and I can usually build it back up by the fire colossus. And what I want to do is try to save this ultimate for when those tough adds come out. That way I can try to stack the boss on top of the fire colossus along with the adds and then drop the house. So it's much better to save your ultimates when you're dealing with tough adds than to try to be perfect and just blow through the boss's mechanics. Trust me, I learned this the hard way, especially on the last boss. Another suggestion I'll have is I was using inside the portals on the very last boss, I was using my ultimate to kill the adds quickly so the boss had less health. Because the longer you're in there, the more health the boss has. But what I found was a much easier strategy is to save the ultimate, get the boss maybe a little bit more health, but when 2 or 3 adds are spawned, the boss is also there, and I have my DPS checked with the little tethers closing in on me, I found it much easier to drop a massive AoE Destra ult during that time, clearing the adds, making sure I pass the DPS test. No, it's not the fastest, but that's okay. It's better to then dying and making sure you screw up your clear. So what I suggest, find how these fights go for you. If it's optimal to drop the house at the start, great. If it's not, hold it for those tough ad phases, making it much easier. One thing that helped me get multiple no death clears was keeping a very simple 1 bar setup that contained a shield or heal, my ground effect AoE damage abilities, and a buff. This way I have survivability tools, damage, and a buff on the same bar, allowing me to cast a shield, cast some damage, cast a shield again, cast a buff, etc. When I made my build too complex, what I was doing was flipping to cast one ability, flipping back, casting a buff, flipping back again to cast a shield, switching, and I ended up fat fingering and dying. Until this becomes second nature, having a very simple back bar that you know you can do some damage and healing and survivability will make it going much, much easier. Another tool is also having it at range. So it's much easier to channel a fully charged lightning attack on your back bar and shield, especially if you're out of magic than kind of panicking and waiting to fire it off on your fire staff. Same can be said with maybe a bow. Getting this at range, if you're a stamina build, or if you're a magic build, a lightning staff, fully charging at range, especially if you're out of resources, and having that heal or shield on that same bar will make this much, much easier when you're panicking, taking a lot of pressure from multiple ads. A great tip for resources is using soul traps for mobs that will die quickly with one cast and a heavy attack. Example of this is the grapple hook boss. There's some archer mobs that will spawn, and you can just tap them real quick with a soul trap and a fully charged heavy attack, and then bang, a flood of your primary resource. Also, don't be afraid to switch from spell power or weapon power potions to tri-stat potions. Specifically at the platform boss as a magic build, I'm dodging, blocking, bashing, running out of stamina very quickly. I'd pop one of these tri-potions as an OP Argonian and bang, I'm good to go. Yes, you will lose damage, but you want to survive. That's priority number 1. And then heavy attack. It sounds simple, but if you don't know what to do or you're dipping below, say 25% on your primary stat, I'd highly suggest taking the time, if it permits, to do a fully charged heavy attack. You always want to have 1 or 2 shields, heals that you can cast in your back pocket, so when you're under pressure, take the time to fully charge a heavy attack and make sure you don't go out of magic. Plus, don't forget to pop potions on cooldown. If anything, to get the passive regeneration buff going at all times. Yes, it can be expensive, but if you're trying to get that sick Spirit Slayer, it's well worth it. Thanks for watching my tips and tricks for Veteran Vateshran Hollow. I have a full-length narrated video on Veteran Trifecta Vateshran and Maelstrom, which you can click in the top right corner. I'll put a link in the description, along with the link of this build that I use, the Gladiator Magic PvE Solo Templar. If you like this video, please subscribe, turn alerts on, and consider becoming a member so I can produce more Elder Scrolls Online content. Thanks for watching.